Help me reach 2,000 subscribers. When Emily texted, "I'm in Rome, don't wait," I stared at my phone for a long moment. The words were simple, casual even, but they carried a weight I couldn't ignore. For months, we'd been drifting apart. Cold dinners, half-hearted conversations, her constant scrolling, me pretending not to notice. But this message, it was different. It wasn't just distance. It was a declaration. I didn't reply immediately. I sat at the edge of the bed, thinking about the life we had built over the past 6 years. The apartment, the weekend routines, the inside jokes, the shared plans for a future that now felt fragile, like thin glass threatening to shatter. Emily had always been the adventurous one, quick to pack a bag and leave for a weekend getaway. But this, Rome alone, without a hint of warning or even a goodbye. I remembered the last fight we'd had. Something trivial. Her forgetting to pick up groceries, me snapping at her over text. But it had escalated. Words we both regretted were thrown like knives. After that night, she had started retreating further, claiming she needed space, claiming she needed her own life. And now this. I picked up my phone and typed a simple response. "I won't. Divorce is waiting." I sent it before my own mind could second-guess me. The reply wasn't out of anger. It was clarity. I had tried ignoring the signs, tried holding on, tried convincing myself that we could fix what had been broken. But the truth had a way of revealing itself, whether you were ready or not. That evening, I went through our apartment, running my hands over the things we had shared. Photos, letters, souvenirs from trips we had taken together. Every item felt like a marker of what we had lost long before Rome became her escape. And yet, I didn't feel bitterness. Not yet. I felt something quieter, deeper, resolve. By the time she landed, I had already contacted our lawyer. The papers were ready, signed, and waiting for delivery. She didn't know it yet, and I wanted it that way. Let her come back to the city, believing she could slip back into her old life, unaware that the choice had already been made. That night, I stayed awake, imagining the airport, the bustling crowds, the announcements, the endless sea of travelers, and her, unaware that every step she took toward home was a step toward the moment where everything would change. The next morning, the city felt unusually still. I went through the motions of my routine, coffee, shower, checking the mailbox, but my mind was elsewhere. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped, expecting a message from Emily, but none came. I didn't need them. I already knew the distance between us was more than miles. It was a chasm built over months of neglect, lies, and unspoken resentment. When she finally returned, she didn't knock. She didn't announce herself. She opened the door and stepped inside, as if she owned the space, her hair slightly windblown from Rome, her luggage rolling behind her. She looked at me with a smile that I used to adore, the one that had drawn me to her years ago. But I saw it now for what it was. A mask. "Hey," she said casually, dropping her bag near the door. "I missed you. Rome was amazing." But I cut her off with a quiet, measured tone. "I'm glad you had a good trip, but things are over, Emily. I've signed the papers. Divorce is waiting." Her smile faltered, eyes widening as the words sank in. "What? What do you mean?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't plead. I just said, "I mean that I can't pretend anymore. I tried. I held on for us, but you've made it clear where your priorities lie." Her hand shook slightly as she reached for her bag, her words stumbling over each other. "Brandon, wait. It was just a trip. I didn't..." I shook my head, cutting her off again. It wasn't just a trip, Emily. It was the symbol of everything you've been doing behind my back. The distance, the secrets, the lies. And now the consequences are here. She sank onto the couch, silent, the energy in the room shifting. I watched her struggle with disbelief, guilt, and fear all rolled into one. I didn't feel victorious. I felt relief. Relief that the illusion of our marriage, the pretense of love and trust, had finally been stripped away. Then came the moment that made everything irreversible. I placed her phone on the table, open to the messages I had discovered the night she left. Every word, every hidden conversation, every promise broken, displayed in stark clarity. Her face went pale as she read, eyes widening, hands trembling. She looked up at me, searching for some excuse, some apology. But there was none to give. I leaned back, calm, resolute. "This isn't about punishment," I said. "It's about truth. And truth has a way of catching up, whether we're ready or not." For the first time in months, she was quiet. Truly quiet. No arguing, no deflection. Just facing the reality she had tried to avoid. And in that silence, I realized how powerful honesty could be. Not for revenge, but for awakening. Emily sat on the couch, staring at her phone, her fingers tracing the screen like she could erase the truth by touch. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched her face shift through every shade of realization. Shock, guilt, fear, and finally regret. The mask had fallen, and beneath it was a woman confronting the consequences of choices she had made, while thinking she was untouchable. After several long minutes, she whispered, "Brandon, I didn't mean for it to get this far." I shook my head slowly. "It didn't get this far, Emily. You chose this path long before Rome. That trip was just the final step." Her eyes welled up, but I could see the anger too. The anger at herself, at me, at the universe, for not letting her slip away unscathed. I leaned forward, keeping my voice steady. "I loved you. I trusted you. But love isn't enough when honesty is absent. I gave you chances, Emily. You made your choice." She tried to speak again, but the words caught in her throat. There was nothing left to say that could undo what had been done. In that moment, I realized the power of clarity. Not revenge, not confrontation, just undeniable truth. It didn't matter how clever the lies were or how carefully she had tried to hide them. Truth, once seen, has a way of changing everything. I handed her the divorce papers. Her hand shook as she took them, and for the first time, I saw her not as the woman I once knew, but as someone learning the weight of her own actions. "Sign them," I said quietly. "Or don't. The choice doesn't change the reality." She stayed silent for a long time, eyes fixed on the floor. Finally, she picked up the pen, trembling. As the ink met the paper, a chapter of our lives ended. Not with shouting, not with violence, but with a quiet acknowledgement of what had been lost. After she left, the apartment felt lighter. The air seemed cleaner, calmer. I sat on the couch, staring at the window, where Rome was a memory she had returned from. A symbol of choices made and consequences faced. I felt a strange relief. Not joy, not triumph, just peace. I realized that the trip she thought would empower her, free her, had only illuminated the truth. And truth has a way of arriving quietly, but with finality. When Emily texted from Rome, she believed she controlled the narrative. But the narrative had changed long before she landed. Sometimes, it only takes a single message, A single revelation to end a marriage. And sometimes it only takes one moment of clarity for someone to understand the cost of their choices. That evening, as I closed the door behind her, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I was no longer waiting. I was free.